Hi everyone, good morning. Sarah Pacaro, hypnotherapist and rapid transformational therapist. I just wanted to share with you from a personal experience and standpoint what is behind anger. And it may be your anger, it may be anger with the toxic and unhealthy person in your life or ex, whoever is experiencing and displaying signs of anger. What's behind it? Because you start to realize, like, man, what happened? Like, maybe you experienced anger and you did or said some things that you're not proud of, and you wonder, God, where did that come from, right? Anger, oh my gosh, anger is a very, very powerful emotion, and there's layers to it, just like there's layers to everything. But behind anger, and I'm going to share a post later that will explain more of this in a graphical representation, but behind anger, there's certainly fear. There's always fear. It's a very, very fear-driven emotion. You're afraid of this certain outcome, or your mind starts to go down that rabbit hole of like, this is going to happen. And then that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, like, kicks in, and the fear of that happening, your mind says, I need to protect you and keep you safe. So behind anger is this fear, right? And so you react with the fight response, and behind that fear is anxiety of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And so you notice that you say things or you project things, and then later on you're going, right? Like, maybe you feel bad because you did or said something. So what's also behind anger is frustration that you're not getting your way, or you're not getting the certain outcome, or you can't get that other person to do what you want them to do, or engage or take responsibility. And then there's confusion, like, why is it so damn hard to do that? I don't get it. Why don't you just do that? Like, a recent experience with the last narcissist in my life, we have to counter parent, and I call it counter parenting because it's certainly not co-parenting. And there is a lot of that, and it's in regards to simple things that he is legally bound to do, but he doesn't do. And when I ask him about it, it's just another excuse, and I am expected to just sit there and shut up about it and let him go on doing whatever he's supposed to do, when it tremendously impacts the health and well-being of my child. So it's just confusion. Like, why is it so hard to do? It would take me 5 minutes to do, and this has been dragging on for months and months and months, and every time it gets brought up, it escalates into something really big, a big fight, right? And it's just so confusing. Like, why is this so hard for you to do without you exploding in rage? So behind anger, there's always hurt. You're always hurt. There's that inner part of you, that unhealed part of you, and the other person that gets triggered, and it hurts, right? It's a wound, if you imagine, that's open, oozing and bleeding, and it's like that person just took a bag of salt and poured in it, and it hurts. It hurts emotionally, hurts on many, many different levels. And then there's sadness. There's sadness for not getting what you want, and even though the worst way to try to get what you want is to raise your voice and yell at someone, there's sadness behind that. There's feelings of not feeling heard, not feeling understood, not feeling accepted, not belonging, not feeling loved, valued, all those things that relate to sadness. And that is also connected to feeling isolated. You just feel so alone. And then, of course, there's this wheel, the spinning cycle of inducing more anger because you feel isolated. And then again, goes back to that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And then there's the guilt, right? The guilt generally sets in afterwards, like you did or said something that maybe you wish you wouldn't have, or you knew like wasn't the right response. And then there's shame connected to that. So much of this, everything, when you get triggered, is connected to toxic shame. Just shame on shame, layers of it. And then there's jealousy. You know, this person that you're arguing with or fighting with, like, they have something that you think that you should have. Like, why do they get to feel this or experience this or have that, and I don't? Like, I'm the better person here. I'm the nicer person. I'm the one that has to frickin' do everything, right? And so there's jealousy that they kind of get off easily, so it seems. And then there's just outrage at injustice, that they seem to get away with everything, or they seem to, like, get off doing whatever it is that they want to do and never having to take responsibility or put any skin in the game. So there's outrage at injustice. And if you have had to go through the justice system in any of these past experiences with people that are toxic, you know this. It seems like they just get off the hook. And I've worked with many clients who've had traumatic experiences with past toxic people, and they seem to get away with murder and it's just like the slap on the wrist, and then they get bailed out and they can go continue doing whatever it is that they want to do. And that leads to this feeling of helplessness. Like, what the hell? You can get a lawyer, you can have, a court case or whatever it is, and you still don't get that desired outcome. That leads to more anger. And then there's that feeling of helplessness. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how much money you throw at this, or no matter how much you bang your head against the wall, doesn't ever seem to get the outcome that you desire. And that fuels more anger. And then there's this feeling of overwhelming stress. I can't do this. And that feeling of like, you know what, if I can't, what's the point? And just feeling like you just want to shut down because nothing seems like it's going to get you anywhere. So it leads to that feeling of overwhelming stress. And then the humiliation, the embarrassment. Like, look at everything you've had to do and you're still having to deal with this after how many years? I mean, that's how it is with my ex. It's like, after how many years are we still in the same cycle? Because they don't change, and the only person you can ever change is yourself, and moving out of these feelings and this entangled web that they're in, with this anger. So the embarrassment, right? Like, if you might want to isolate yourself because the family or friends that you did have that know about it, it's just like, man, you're still dealing with that? Wow, you haven't like gotten over that by now, and you've been trying everything to quote unquote get over it. But if you still have to have any kind of relationship with these toxic and unhealthy people, you're just embarrassed, which leads to just feeling more isolated, more ashamed, more anger, more blah, all this stuff. And then that leads to depression. And depression is, I mean, think about it, depress, right? You push down. And that causes you to feel isolated and alone, causes you to sit in silence, causes you to stew in your mind. And if you ever get to that place where you're depressed, there's something inside of you that needs to come out. It needs to come out in order to let go. People ask all the time, how do I let go? Well, I tell you one thing, it is not sitting in silence. They want you to sit in silence because then they can go out and do whatever. But it causes you to have depression. And then this messed up system, healthcare system, it's actually a sick care system, because they don't want you to get healthy. If you get healthy, then they stop making money, right? Because then you have to, then you get off the medication and then you actually start feeling better and living your life, and you don't experience those feelings or symptoms of depression, and you don't need the medications or like the weekly visits or whatever it is. So that is something that anger contributes to and is connected and related to, is depression, and then these feelings of rejection and loneliness. So you can see there's all these words, there's all these adjectives, there's all these verbs that are connected to what is actually behind the curtain of anger. So it's like, if this is a curtain and it's anger, right? It says anger on it, and you pull it back, you're going to see all these things: the loneliness, the rejection, the fear, the shame, the hurt, the confusion, the frustration, the isolation, the jealousy, this humiliation, this embarrassment, the depression is all behind the curtain of anger. So you can see, yes, anger can be a very positive, motivating emotion, because you can be angry. When you're angry, you get shit done. Like, you're going to go F this person and go file or do whatever it is that you need to do to get back at that person. But anger, really, behind that curtain, because there's so much behind that curtain of anger, the person that hurts the most is you. And it's like that saying, that phrase, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're drinking the poison of anger, and because there's so much behind that curtain, the only person it deeply impacts is you. So it's not always a bad emotion. It's a very powerful emotion, one that can put things in motion and get things done. And then maybe you do get some form of justice instead of stewing and sitting in that injustice and being outraged at that. But it's not healthy long term. And if you have things inside of you from your past, maybe when you were a child or growing up, or a parent or a sibling or teacher, whoever it was, like someone that you holding on to, and people say, well, just move on, right? Like, what's the big deal? Like, that happened when you were 8 or whatever it was, and you're now 38. That's 30 years ago. Just get over it. And then you're not, because you just get older. You don't, you can't heal unless you actually stop and spend the time to feel and release those emotions, let go of those emotions, those anger and all those other things that are behind the curtain connected to it. So that is what hypnosis is extremely powerful in allowing you to break through, because you realize it's not actually the experience, it's the emotion behind the experience, the emotion behind the curtain, if that makes sense. So I hope this analogy is helpful for you to just understand what is behind the curtain of emotion. And I saw this in my experience this morning, actually, with the ex-narcissist, when this topic got brought up about what he is legally obligated to do with and when it comes into regards of our common child, and he didn't. And so I see that these same emotions behind me and him, because they are human too. And I hear this, well, narcissists don't have souls. Well, they do. They're just very, very traumatized, damaged souls. And so they're always, in this case, this person in particular is always in a fight response. They just want to fight back all the time. There's fight, freeze, or fawn, right? And he's always in a fight response. I'm like, wow, okay. I mean, it got so ridiculous as to say, I'm going to fight your boyfriend. Well, A, I don't have a boyfriend, so have fun with that. And B, it's just like, you can see that automatic response. Behind that curtain of anger is that fight trauma response that leads to all these. So any human walking this planet has these emotions, whether you're labeled as a toxic narcissist or you're a codependent empath, whatever that label is that you're wearing, everyone has and experiences and displays these emotions behind that curtain of anger in very similar ways. Some just do it at a more aggressive state and rate than others. So I hope that this helps you understand, maybe when you're trying to figure it out for yourself, or you're trying to figure out where someone else is coming from, why they do all these things, and you're noticing that you feel confused and frustrated and anxious yourself. We're all humans. We all have the same emotions. We express them on different levels, if that makes sense. But behind the curtain of anger for all of us are all of those other emotions, feelings, and experiences. And if you personally are looking for a way to break free, or let some of that go because you notice the internal damage that it's doing and having on you, then I would love to connect. That is where hypnotherapy, rapid transformational therapy, really gets into your subconscious mind and allows you to break free from those chains and those connections. But I hope this helps you understand it from all viewpoints, personally from yourself, and then from the viewpoint of a toxic and unhealthy person that you may have in your life, because they're certainly not fun to deal with. And you can't change them. You can just send you love, wish you well, and good luck to you. But you can change everything about your life in regards to these different places within you that you're holding on to this and the impact it's having in your life. So thank you guys. Like I always say, I hope this helps, and if you are looking for a way to connect, you can just click on the banner, and it'll pull up my schedule and give us a time to chat more. Thanks guys, have a wonderful day.